A groundbreaking new book is shedding light on what's thought to be the only successful coup in U.S. history. And They Stole a City. Our next guest chronicles the city of Wilmington, North Carolina in 1898, then considered a bastion of black success, with a black middle class brimming with lawyers, educators, and elected officials. But in November of that year, white supremacists issued a white Declaration of Independence, gunning down scores of black men while chasing their families into hiding. They then marched to City Hall and overthrew the democratically elected multiracial government at gunpoint. Nearly 130 years later, the new book weaves together the stories of four Wilmington families who were present at the time. Two white families who contributed to the violence, and two black families who survived it. And the author of that book, Lauren Collins, joins us now. She's a staff writer at The New Yorker, and Wilmington, North Carolina is her hometown. Thank you so much for being with us. You know, I think it was about a year ago that a lot of Americans who had never heard about the Tulsa race riots, never been taught it in school, heard about all the horrors of that. I think you could say the same thing about what happened in 1898 in your hometown. Talk about it. Talk about why it was so significant and why you wrote the book.
First of all, thank you so much for having me. You know, I grew up in Wilmington. I was born there in 1980. And I, like a lot of people there, didn't know anything about this growing up. We weren't taught about it in school. I was a high school senior in 1998 on the centennial of this event. And still, nothing. So, you know, it's kind of like when you're in a family, you know, when there's a family secret, and even if you don't know what it is, you have a vague sense. You can tell that maybe something's a little off. I was back in Wilmington. I'm a journalist. I was in Wilmington in 2015 reporting a story, and I went down to the 1898 memorial. And they have a neat plaque. They explain what happened. It's accurate, but it's all very tidy and kind of tied up with a little bow. And I looked, and to the side, there was another sign, this kind of homemade guerrilla effort. Somebody, I think, had, you know, climbed up on this telephone pole and nailed it there, and it said 1898 war crime. And in that moment, I knew that this story was a live wire, that it was still being adjudicated, that it wasn't over, that it held deep meaning and had high stakes for people who are still alive today.
So, Lauren, this is a great piece of reporting. I love that you've done this, and we'll get into kind of what Wilmington became later. But talk about what it was before 1898, before the coup took place. What kind of a city was it for the folks who lived there?
The way I see it, the promise of Reconstruction lasted longer in Wilmington than almost anywhere else. The city was a bastion of success and possibility with a thriving black middle class. You know, as you said, lawyers, architects, oystermen, restaurateurs, wheelwrights. You had it all. And most importantly, it represented the heart of black political power in the state. The government was, the city government, I should say, was controlled by fusionists. And this was a really interesting and unprecedented political experiment in interracial cooperation in North Carolina. This was a movement that arose in the 1890s, and white populists joined forces with mostly black Republicans, the party of Lincoln, to create this common coalition on the interests of class rather than race. So 3 of the 10 aldermen in 1898 in Wilmington were black. And again, it was a place where it was a sort of mecca, both politically and economically, for black people in North Carolina.
Lauren, talk about how there is the underlying principles of some that when they see black advancement coming out of slavery, Reconstruction era, that they never lose the feeling of white supremacy, that we are supposed to be in charge, and that's the underlying feeling that led to what happened in Wilmington. And some of us feeling that in a less violent way, it has happened in modern times, in our times, where you had a Barack Obama as president, black making advancement, and saw that a lot of the reaction was Donald Trump and a backlash, or even Donald Trump and a backlash to Kamala Harris. Talk about how that kind of underlying feeling may be the core of what we saw in Wilmington, and still see some segments of that now.
Absolutely. I mean, we have to remember this was only 30 years after slavery and emancipation. These people should have been celebrated for what they've done, what they had done. It was a huge achievement. But instead, Wilmington is a case study, a flagrant case study of this pattern of white backlash to black political progress. So pursue Reconstruction, you get 1898. Pursue desegregation, you're met with massive resistance. Elect a black president, endure a white nationalist one who claims that his predecessor was not a citizen. I think it's very important to keep in mind that white supremacy is not a blip. It's not a regression. It's a through line of our nation's history. And what Wilmington and the story of 1898 demonstrates is that white supremacists will continue to take what they think is theirs until the costs outweigh the spoils. You know, I think it's very important to keep in mind both the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI have designated white supremacy as the most persistent and lethal terrorist threat in America. So absolutely, this is living history. The story is not over. And I think the origins of many of our current crises are here, can be seen in our own violent past.
And it's worth underscoring again that no one knows exactly how many black citizens were murdered by these white supremacists, dozens, perhaps hundreds. In this coup, there were several across the Reconstruction South. A really important new book. It's available now, titled They Stole a City, Wilmington's White Supremacist Coup and the Families Who Live with Its Legacy. Author Lauren Collins, thank you so much for being with us. Congratulations on this.
Thank you.